about PVH, what type of organization it is. Come on! With so many fashionistas here in the room, not more than a handful. PVH is what we call the mother company of brands like Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein. In the US, we have many more brands, Van Heusen, Philips Van Heusen. But basically, it's a fashion company. And yes, we do have cool tech in fashion companies. A lot of people don't believe us. It's super difficult to find great engineers. But there's a lot of great stuff happening at our organization. And as many of us have been talking about already today, is that the world today is changing so rapidly. With the blink of an eye, the whole landscape has changed already. I think it was until 3 months ago, everybody was talking about Web3. Nobody talks about it anymore. Did you notice? It's all generative AI that people are talking about. And it goes so quickly. So how do we deal with those things? And it's not only the world around us, but it's also in fashion that the environment is changing a lot. Fashion itself has actually remained the same for hundreds of years, which is really, really terrible. But thank goodness it is changing these last years. I love fashion, but it's a really horrible industry, right? Think of overproduction, overconsumption, chemicals that are being used, child labor that we have. So we need to change fashion. And I really believe that with technology, we can do that. We can change the industry for good. So how do we do that? And what are the changes that we have to deal with?
Well, you can investigate yourself, but you can also lean a little bit on McKinsey and business of fashion. So every year they will do a state of fashion. So these are the main points that are very important over there. So there are some elements over here. For instance, global economy. So what's happening with the world? We have inflation. We have environmental problems, geopolitical things that were going on. So this really brings a lot of uncertainty in companies and in the fashion world. But also, how are the regions recovering from COVID, for instance? What's happening? Are they up to new technology, new products that are launching? Where to invest? Should we invest in the States, or should we invest in Europe, or perhaps in Asia? Where to invest? But also the consumer also shifts. Two-track spending. So what does it mean? So is the consumer postponing his buying of new clothes, or is he going for the bargain, for the cheaper brand? What's going on? How do you attract customers? But also fluid fashion, and especially with Gen Z, menswear, women's wear, or should men and women wear the same? So this is also changing. So it used to be very clear, but now it's fluid again. Formal wear. So if you go to a formal event, what do you wear? Are you going to wear sneakers or a blouse, or what are you going to wear? So also this is changing again. And then of course, direct to consuming. So we need to reinvent what are the channels we need to use? Are we going to use omni-channel, or what about wholesale? What about, well, the whole organization? And of course, Manyana already mentioned it. The green washing is, of course, not the most famous thing about fashion, of course. How are we going to prevent that? How can we track on these things that we are not polluting the earth? But also, and we have seen this during COVID, of course, how are we manufacturing, and are we to build reliable manufactural supply chains? So how do you do that? Digital marketing, also a very important one. Does anyone look at the television and watches all these kind of commercials, or do you see it at YouTube? Where to advertise, right? So that's also very. And the last but not least, are we fit for the future? Do we need to change? And this is, I think, most of the fashion companies are busy with that. Okay, are we ready for the future? Are we fast enough? Are we responsive enough? So, as you can see, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of urgency. There's a lot things changing over time. So, and one of the things you can also do is, of course, as a leader, how do you react on this? So this is very important. And how does technology contribute to this?
Yes, so to all of these, and I think it's 10 in total, and of course there's much more happening in the fashion industry and in the world in general around us. But as I said before, I really believe that technology is the key to solving many of these problems, future-proofing manufacturing, really going back to where did the cotton come from? And was it produced in a sustainable way? Those types of things are super important, especially in today's world. And at PVH, we kind of kicked off the digital transformation, if you can even talk about really a start of it. But it was something that we did in 2015 that really disrupted the whole fashion industry.
And again.
Another day, another opportunity, filled with possibility and potential. We're embracing innovation as we enter a new era, revolutionizing the fashion industry and looking to the future. We're pioneering innovative new technologies that allow us to work smarter, better, and faster. In 2015, we revolutionized the buying and selling journey for our wholesale customers with the industry's first ever digital showroom. What started as a vision for the future became a reality. Today, we have digital showrooms in 13 countries with 24 theaters and 59 workstations. By the end of 2017, we'll have 26 theaters and 78 workstations, from Europe to the Americas to Asia and everywhere in between. But we won't stop there. By advancing the technology, we've taken our digital showroom even further, constantly evolving to meet our customers' needs. We're immersing our customers into our world from the moment they arrive, creating an exclusive bespoke service. We're sharing our brand heritage and our seasonal inspirations so our customers understand the collections better than ever. And we're making it easier for them to take control. In just one click, everything is displayed on ultra-high-definition 4K screens, from product details and pricing to buying history, delivery dates, and more. We're bringing greater ease to creating, editing, strengthening, and perfecting unique assortments for every customer. With the selection process complete and no additional paperwork or admin needed, a summary is sent directly to the customer's personal account. It's that simple. By reimagining the physical buying experience in the digital world, we've cut our sample production by 80% at our European headquarters. And we're doing the same for our digital showroom locations globally, improving our sustainability and optimizing our efficiency, all without ever losing the personal touch. As for tomorrow, whatever it brings, we'll be ready. We're adapting our business to meet the changing needs of the industry, innovating, pioneering, and evolving our vision for the future. We'll see you there.
So this is not intended, I swear, as a commercial for you to all go buy Tommy Hilfiger. What it is about is that 80% reduction of samples. And let me explain a bit about how the fashion process has worked for over centuries. I'm a designer. I design a shirt for the new collection. I send an image to a factory in China, for instance, and they create the sample. That sample is then shipped halfway across the world for me to look at and then only say, oh, you know what, that button in the back should go 1 centimeter to the right or to the left. I adjust my design, send the image to China. They create a second sample and it's sent again across the whole world. That happens 8 to 9 times. Each collection can have up to 60,000 items. So just imagine the footprint that we're leaving with each collection that we produce. And again, I love fashion, but that is not good. We have to change that. And that is what this digital showroom did, because now everything is digitalized. So salespeople no longer come to our office and see mannequins walking around with all the samples. No, everything is digital. They look at these fancy screens as you saw in the video, and then they place their order. So I think that's why it was such a disruptive innovation, and it really changed the industry. My name is Manyana Schmitz. I have a very long title, but basically what I'm responsible for is digital transformation in PVH, and there's a lot to do, as you can imagine. And this gentleman is helping me with that.
Yeah, I'm Rick de Groot, Principal Agile Consultant, and I'm helping Manyana in the role of Head of Agile Center of Excellence. And there we do the transformation. So, transformation of what? Let's zoom back to technology. So now you know the context and what's going on with fashion and how does it work. So there are a lot of things, and already, well, the first item you'll perhaps recognize or say, well, this is really the metaverse. Is that really still happening, or is it more AI? Well, we think, well, it's already moved in the background, but this is a report of 2022. So what's going on? How are the customers coming to us? Is it virtual? And how do we attract these customers? Personalization. And of course, you need big data and AI in that to customize what the customer needs, and also to attract them. Because if you have a personalized item, then you will probably buy it more easily. Connecting the stores. If you walk in the store, you have an app, and if you are connected to this particular store, from the research, well, people stay longer in the shop and are more likely to buy stuff. So that's really important. So that's also an opportunity in tech, end to end. So in Agile, we mention a lot of times value streams. So what's going on in the whole value stream? If you have a product life cycle, what's going on in all these steps, and how can you optimize that? And last but not least, so what's going on if you produce a product and the footprint, what's happening in every step, and can we optimize by using technology? Well, as a leader, you have an important role. Are we fast enough to change? So you know the fashion, what's happening in fashion. Are we fast enough? Are we creative enough to create new products, new services that customers like? But also, and more important, we have a lot of Gen Z within PVH. Are they willing to work for PVH? Are they liking us? So leadership has an important role in that. So looking at these, I think perhaps everyone know Carnarvon. Well, it's a model to describe the world. So some things are very simple, easy to understand. A leads to B. Perhaps you have some more complicated things, and that leads A can lead to B, to C, to D, more complicated. And you have complex. And complex means, okay, we do not know how it exactly works. Perhaps we need to experiment. Perhaps we need to figure out by just doing, and then figure out what is the effect, and can we learn from it? And well, sometimes it's even more chaotic, but then you really have to respond very quickly. So what we have noticed in the market, in fashion, mostly we are in the area of complex. And within this area of complex, adaptive leadership that supports these experiments and also values people how they are. And well, you need to use the wisdom of the crowd, for instance, in order to get the information, because as a leader, you simply do not know in these paradigms. It's too complex. You cannot comprehend everything. So therefore, as an adaptive leader, you need to figure out how does it work? How do I empower people to figure out themselves and doing experiments? And this is one of the things you as a leader should work in. And of course, also in these areas, you still need to be active as a leader. But if you want to innovate and create new products and to respond of these changes, perhaps it's better to focus a little bit more on the complex area. So, and one of the things doing so is to perhaps emphasize a little bit more on the feminine side of leadership.
So adaptive leadership, as Rick was mentioning, is similar to situational leadership. What does the environment tell you? Where does the environment tell you to go? And what do the teams need? And Tom, I think you explained a lot. There you are. It was funny, you were talking about the role of leaders, and it made me think, this has nothing to do with my talk, by the way, but I just thought it was very funny because we were talking about parachutes before, that I also view leadership sometimes as a shit umbrella, because you need to make sure that you keep away the shit from your team and that they can do what they're good at and what they like doing. So thanks for reminding me of that. Going back to adaptive leadership and the benefit of also including feminine leadership. And this is not about genders. Thank God it's not, because I'm a bit slightly disappointed at the number of women in the room, but still, it's not about genders at all. We all have feminine and masculine traits. The adaptive leadership that is needed in today's changing world and in this crazy environment that we're in with fashion, the feminine traits will help with making your organization more agile, more adaptable, more resilient. So it's important that we all understand how to unlock or how to put to the test these traits. And there's no good or bad. It's really about including both of them. And I think in the past, especially in fashion, because as I said, it's such a traditional industry, it was very old school. And the focus was much more on the masculine side of leadership. What we need today is more of that feminine leadership. So we talked a lot about collaboration already, for instance. So there's a lot of focus on that to make sure that teams are working together, that it's not about my Ferrari, but that it's about the end goal for all of us, whether it's learning or whatever. It's really about that empathy for other people, other visions, other cultures. We can learn from each other. It's really about having that growth mindset. So no good, no bad, not a gender thing, but including the feminine traits will actually help accelerate the digital transformation. Does everybody know who Jacinda Ardern is? She's the Prime Minister of New Zealand, or she's no longer the Prime Minister of New Zealand. That's in itself an interesting story, but let's not go there. But what I found really interesting is that with all this change in feminine traits and adaptive leadership and millennials and Gen Z that really also need and are looking for different leadership styles, the fact that she feels that being empathic for quite a few people means that she's weak. I hope that everybody thinks that's as crazy as I think it is. Because I think it's actually a really, really strong thing to have as a leader. And there are many more examples. Sanna Marin, former Prime Minister of Finland. But look at, Netflix or wherever there was, Ted Lasso. Who's looking at Ted Lasso? Amazing. He's an amazing guy with, definitely putting his feminine traits to help move his team forward. So there's these great examples, and still people challenge these traits. Is it you or it's me, right? It's still me. Oh, sorry. It's still me. You know what? That's why I looked at you, because I actually wanted to forget about this slide because of Evelyn's and Andrea's presentation before. Because you see a lot of container words on here. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so bad. And we also have new leadership values and... so not good, but we were saved by the bell, because yesterday when we were preparing for this presentation, we were actually talking about, what do you think, where am I strongest at? And we asked, each other this question, and you actually said, I'm good at inspiring trust. And then I myself said, well, I think collaborate to win is something that I'm very good at. And for you, you were all over you're just really good. You're staying curious and learning together and connecting to consumers. But the point where I'm going is that we actually started talking about, but why do you think that is? How do you see me inspiring trust? And that is what made the conversation a really, really cool one. So I won't go into this other than saying, if you look at these behaviors, they're really a combination of feminine and masculine traits. And I think that's why they're so great. What we need to work at PVH is now to really make sure that people actually behave in this matter. So that's still a long journey, I would say.
Yep. And we would like to use the wisdom of the crowd, because it's easy to talk about behaviors and what would you do. Well, you have all these cards, right? The red and green cards. I would like you to ask the question. Would you let an employee, well, you're a leader, right? Invest in a project you think would fail? So if you agree with that, you show you the green. If you disagree with that, show the red.
Yeah, you have to choose.
I see most green.
Oh, it depends. It's either it depends or 42, right?
It
That's
depends.
the standard answer.
Someone with red? Do you want to explain why you chose red? Yeah?
I think it really depends on, it depends on their intention.
Yeah.
They want to invest in this project because they think that's what is expected of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from they want to do it. It's this is what is expected of me at this level. Or is it because they're actually interested in it? Or is it just they think they have to?
Exactly. So indeed, it depends on the context, because perhaps this person is really a professional, is able to, but, well, you do not see the value of the product, but since this person is really a professional, you say yes to it. Or perhaps this person has no skills, and then perhaps this option would be better, right? Let's try another one. And this one is about a conflict. And would you interfere in a quite diverse technology team? So you have all the capabilities in the teams and all different traits of people in the team. What would you say? Yes, it's my role as a leader. I need to resolve these conflicts. Or, like Tom already says, self-organizing, it's the silver bullet, of course, should be able to resolve this conflict. Red or green? That's a good question. So I didn't specify.
You didn't unravel. You didn't unravel.
I didn't
Yeah,
unravel,
yeah.
but that's the talk of Tom, of course. So a lot of green, some red. You voted red?
I would see the word interfere being replaced by intervene.
Intervene. Yeah,
It sounds
not good. Yeah. I agree with you. And it, of course, again, it depends on the situation, what you would do. And eventually, perhaps you would do the organization. But first, perhaps you need to learn the people how to resolve the conflicts themselves before you can let them do that. Right? That's also adaptive leadership. So, what's going on in the team, and are they able to do that or not? Last interaction, last question. Would you tell an employee about a possible change? For instance, you're going to start a transformation, or you're going to change your whole way of working that might impact them later. Oh, this is definitely, I see a lot of green.
Oh, that is interesting.
That's right. Some red. Yeah, but most of you green. Oh, that is really interesting, because it could also create a lot of noise, right? So
Exactly.
that's true. Yeah, you have the whispering, Chinese whispering, what's going on, and yes, that's also true. But it could also, I see often this red one, and sometimes it has a good reason, but sometimes there are some issues in there, right? So again, it depends on the situation, and well, it's really good. You're really open to openness and transparency. You're quite transparent, so that's good. I think
not always, and
Not
definitely
always.
not always when it comes to HR or legal. I think
Yeah.
I told you I've heard not too long ago from HR. I won't remember. I won't call out any names, but they actually said I was too transparent and oversharing, which I totally disagree with. But anyway. I think, yeah, we're at 4.
Yes.
So I promised that you could go to drinks in time. So just let me try to do this really quickly, and Rick also help out here.
Yep.
What we try to do with this slide is really give some levers that you could use to start looking at these feminine traits and how you can adjust your leadership style in this crazy world that we live in. And you should look at this as steps, step 1, 2, and 3. And then in the end, that will lead to empowerment, shared decision-making, and growth. And there's a lot here that I think Sadhana has left. She talked about some of this. So there were a lot of practical tips there as well. But when you increase talent density, it's really about the skill set your people have. But for them to be able to use those skills and really come to the full potential, you have to create that open culture and make sure that people dare to ask questions, dare to fail, which also means that as a leader, you need to let go a bit. You need to step back and trust your team. Increased decision-making capability, also relating to Tom's conversation. It's not just about giving people the mandate to take decisions. Not everybody knows how to do that. So you need to help them as an initial step on how to do that. And then, as Rick was mentioning, use the collective wisdom to say you don't have to solve everything yourself, but also lean on yourself and utilize the knowledge of the group that will help you making those decisions. And then when that happens, the magic also happens and you can step back as a manager and they will, take their own decisions. You may not always like them, but they're probably the best for the product that they're building. And then the third one, emotional intelligence, is a lot about what we talked about before. I think who mentioned it? Was it also Sadhana who said soft hard skills or hard soft skills? I don't recall how she put it. But that's really about that emotional intelligence, which is also then leading to more experimenting, which basically means failing and learning, and also look at that as a good thing. Change is not necessarily a bad thing. I actually think change is never a bad thing, but that's a bit crazy maybe. But I think when you look at it as something positive, that will also really help the team in moving forward and growing and developing themselves and the team and the organization.
Yep. Thank you very much.